Hi, readers. I'm Jordan,
And I'm Katie.
and welcome to Not Another Heroine, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines, those swashbuckling ladies who have to work a little harder than expected for their happy ending.
This week we're finishing The Elf Tangent by Lindsay Buroker, otherwise known as Cue the Pantene Commercial Wind Effects.
All right, so I have the pleasure of reviewing part 3 of this book.
I'm a little nervous. I'll say it.
I will try to be kind. I will just precaution here. This is probably going to be a little bit shorter than our normal episodes, our normal summaries.
That's fair.
But Katie's going to jump in. She has been blessed off to nope, you skimmed an entire 3 chapters right there. Where did those go? But I will do my best.
We'll see if I actually catch the things I'm supposed to catch, because that's putting a lot of pressure on me too.
I'm just testing you. That's all this is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Last episode, we left off where Aldari has visited the little elf kingdom. She's kind of discovered that the elvish advisor that Hawk has referenced a couple times, and I don't know if we talked about that before, but Hawk repeatedly brings up that he is acting on the orders of the elvish advisor. Mm-hmm. And Aldari realizes that, like you mentioned last episode, that the elvish advisor is the queen.
Mm-hmm.
So
we kind of touched on it, but not, because, and so if you haven't connected the dots, because we aren't telling the summary quite probably the way that it should, the advisor doesn't know really much about this adventure either, and she's like, what do you mean? That's weird. So that her husband, the king, isn't I fucking told you, we're not doing this dumbass shit. And she's like, oh, that's wild. He's acting on his own. I'm not related to this.
Right. Okay. And then there's zero suspicion on Aldari's part that oh, why does Captain Hawk have a really close relationship with the elvish advisor who's also the queen?
Yeah. Did that not raise eyebrows for her?
It just went right over her head. So many things do in this story.
Yeah.
But that aside, Hawk makes this miraculous recovery after being poisoned, and he sneaks into Aldari's room. They have this little powwow one-on-one session about solving the sorcerer's puzzle. And they agree to go continue the mission, which, oh dear. So,
puppy
readers, our podcast mascot is chiming in as well.
The himbo.
The himbo. Actually, I think that's the himbo's little brother. Yipping a little bit, but anyway. So we got frustrated with this last episode, which is Aldari is yeah, I'm gonna give up my whole plan to save my country and go marry the prince and just instead focus on saving the elvish people. Okay,
yeah,
that's great,
because also
consistency.
Yeah, they she's never expressed any kind of love of the elvish people. I think Hawk and Setvik, the lieutenant, were the first elves she's ever even met. So it's not there's some pre-existing interest in the elf kingdom, and that kind of was the catalyst for her willing to, throw away all of her plans to save her kingdom in order to save the elf kingdom first. That would have been a little bit of a better building block and make it a little bit more believable if she was elf obsessed or something beforehand, but there was
She's
none
just
of that.
Got, elf posters all over her wall bedroom.
I love elves on a t-shirt.
Oh my goodness, little Legolas figurine.
Oh,
yeah. Do you have one, Katie?
No. We'll just no.
Maybe we'll get you. Okay.
Makes me sound suspicious.
Back to Aldari and Hawk. So they agree to go continue on this mission to figure out the magical sorcerer's puzzle, and they set off. And I called him Melvith here, but we've determined his name is Mevlith. That's the poisoner. He reappears miraculously to join them on their quest again, which I thought was super strange, right?
I did too, and it's only now that you mention it, like they never really readdress like what his whole thing was.
He's suspected of like poisoning their entire company.
Yeah.
And Hawk, who's apparently important to the king and queen.
Yeah.
But he's just like, okay, well, I escaped the elvish camp before, and now I'm going to come back and join you.
Yeah.
And he has this explanation that he bought the Wiggenweld potion in the foreign empire. Supposedly, like, he bought this potion in the invading empire, and this is the same empire that's invading Aldari's country. And he's like, yeah, it'll be totally fine. Like,
nothing could go wrong.
But also, Mevlith is a fucking elf. Can't he just make these potions himself? Like,
also true.
Isn't that the whole...
Yeah.
Anyway, he's back in the party, and he doesn't really have another speaking part again.
No. Because I'm trying to think. I think towards the end, it's like kind of revealed what his like whole shebang was, but I could be misremembering it. So we'll get there. We'll readdress later and then come full circle, maybe. Potentially.
Maybe. Well, they continue their journey until, again, the Twisted appear and start attacking them. So, they've set off down the road. I don't know. They've been traveling for hours, maybe days, and Twisted are apparently everywhere, and they just come after them again. They get away. And this is not just Hawk and Aldari and Theli. It's like Hawk's entire elvish mercenary band, right? So they try to get away. The Twisted appear and start to pursue them in this, quote, dramatic battle. Aldari... And Aldari, like, kind of has this come to Jesus moment, and she realizes that she's doubled up on a reindeer with Hawk, and one of them has to get off. Because, like, the reindeer's slowing down. Because it's a poor little reindeer. It's not meant to carry people.
Let alone two people away, running away full speed from zombies.
Yeah. So Hawk, being a himbo and self-sacrificing and dumb, he goes, okay, like, I'll hop off and I can run all day. But just in time, two other elves from the company like sacrifice themselves to like distract and defeat the Twisted and buy the rest of the group enough time to make it to a safe campsite.
Mm-hmm. The archaeological,
I think it's near the archaeological sorcerer's lair site thing.
Oh yeah, it's right? Like the like base camp or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And these campsites, because they've been to like 2 or 3 of them, are like strangely protected. And I don't know if you've ever, it might be too old for you. Do you like, do you like Star Wars?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen episode 1? It came out in like 2001.
So like episode 1, like story wise, or episode 1, like in release? Like, are you talking about episode 4? Or episode?
I'm talking about the one with Ewan McGregor. And
you're talking about the like water battle thing, and they have those little like towers that get stood up. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember that vividly.
Okay, so the final battle where they have the like purple domes that come over and protect.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly Yeah. No, spot on.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Like, so imagine Star Wars purple dome protecting the campsites, and it's repelling the Twisted.
Yeah, but I will say, like, jumping back to this like scene where the two elves kind of have to like sacrifice themselves. I feel like it was pretty not emotional, but like. It was like an oh shit moment for me. Like that's when I realized that they were like zombies and not just like dark elves or something. And also when I got that kind of like hopeless feeling, that I feel like kind of permeates zombie movies. And it could be that I'm just like particularly sensitive to like zombie movies. Like I tell people if there's like a zombie apocalypse, like I absolutely would be like, nope. I'm not handling that whatsoever. But this was like a scary moment for me where I'm like, oh shit, like this is like not going well.
I thought it was kind of sad that these two elves aren't even, if they're mentioned by name, it's only once. And I don't remember them being mentioned.
I don't think so, yeah.
We get oddly enough, the poisoner gets a name, and then Hawk and his lieutenant. But these two elves should have been, I don't know, if they've been serving with Hawk and Setvik for any length of time, which they should have been, there should have been more time spent on like their sacrifice.
Yeah. Or even like explaining the other characters in their little like band. Because I don't think any of them get a name besides, the people that you were talking about. But it was just like a sad kind of like emotional like moment. Because I feel like all zombie movies have that moment where like someone has to sacrifice themselves and you get the like slow-mo of them getting like eaten alive while everyone escapes and have like depressed faces.
If you're watching, are you watching The Last of Us?
I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to.
You are such a Pedro Pascal fan. I can't believe you haven't.
He is daddy energy. Oh my God, I love him. And that like montage video of him saying Pedro Pascal in his like Argentinian accent. Oh, Lord.
Okay, so start the series because that whole like the self-sacrifice, there's a scene like right in the beginning of the series. I'm not sure what episode it is, maybe like 2 or 3. There's one of those moments, and it's a self-sacrificing kind of moment for a character, and it's also like horrifying because there's a zombie aspect. I mean, obviously there's a zombie aspect to it, but there's like a zombie eating person aspect to it. And if you've seen this episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's you will never unsee this moment in TV.
Oh no. I love Pedro Pascal, but I don't do well with zombie movies, so I don't know if I could handle that. But we'll see.
I'm not like a scary movie person ever. I will suffer through them for my partner.
That's fair.
like what do I get if I watch this movie with you?
Yeah.
Kind of trade-off thing. Yeah. But it's a great series. It's more like a character study than a zombie thing.
Oh, that's kind of nice. Yeah. I feel like this book was a little bit of like an inverse of that, like not a character study, more a zombie book, but that's fine.
Yeah, actually, that's a good description. It's the opposite of a character study.
Yeah, we'll just should have kept that to myself, but that's fine. But this was at least a little bit like a pretty like emotional, like, oh shit, okay, not lighthearted anymore.
No, not at all, especially not at that moment. And it's at this point in the story, they realize they, being Hawk and Aldari and Theli, they've become trapped in this campsite, which, if I remember correctly, it's on like the edge of a cliff, protected by this dome thing, but the Twisted are like at the edges of the dome. There is nowhere for them to go. Like there's the edge of the cliff, and they can see the archaeological site. And yeah, they're just kind of stuck there.
And also at the bottom of the cliff, there's more Twisted. So it's not like they could just like climb down. They're like all at the bottom surrounding it too.
Exactly. So they're stuck there. But then again, not a telegram, a messenger pigeon arrives from
a hawk.
From the king. from the king, informing them that the great evil Taldar Empire has started attacking and invading Aldari's villages in her homeland. And her beloved betrothed is considering sending forces to help, but hasn't yet committed because, I don't know, Aldari had a betrothal agreement and she is still not at her wedding yet.
Yeah. And I think it might have been earlier, but it could have been around this time that Captain Hawk even kind of like points that out. He's like, hey, like, don't you think it's at least like a little bit fucked up that you guys are about to enter into this political alliance? And like, I get that you haven't gone there and like provided your half of the deal, but like he hasn't either. And he's like not really planning to do anything. Like that's kind of some shaky ground to start a political alliance on. And I was like, okay, like that's a fair point from the himbo. Like, fair. Well played.
He does have his moments. But also the whole Aldari weighing her options here, she never did, right?
Yeah.
This archaeological site has been around for hundreds of years, and yet her country is being attacked now. I get the Twisted are becoming like growing in number, but like the elves have been dealing with this problem for a long time. And
that is
now
true.
All of a sudden, like it's a priority.
Yeah,
Like such a priority that it overtakes like hundreds of thousands of people being attacked and murdered.
because they really don't have they haven't like so the author hasn't created a sense of immediacy for the whole problem of the Twisted. Like it's alluded to or like said explicitly that, you know, the towns are kind of failing and they don't have, you know, any safe spaces like really left. But there's no like, you know, like illness breaking out or like, you know, a famine or a drought. Like there's no kind of like immediacy for trying to fix this problem right now.
That's a great way to put it. I hadn't thought of it in that sense, but yeah, that's exactly what's wrong with this.
Yeah. So we could probably talk about it in the Q&A book of like, what would you, or the Q&A episode, what would you add to this book to make it a little...
we could write a Q&A book on this particular novel.
True. Yeah. Sad. But anyways.
Well, because they're trapped.
They are trapped in this campsite.
We're trapped at this campsite. Oh, that was atrocious.
That was wild.
Goodness.
I love the idea. I think I was listening to the podcast Morbid. If you guys like true crime, like I love that podcast. Ash and Elena are super funny. But I think one of them has a friend that like randomly breaks out in random like accents, and she thinks it's that she has like a bunch of different ghosts living in her body and they just like randomly like pop out with like phrases. But I just kind of like love that idea. Like there's probably some like southern ghost like living in Jordan's body right now and it's like trapped and you're like, oh my God, who is that?
Thanks for creeping me out.
Sorry.
My God. Wow.
Yeah, so that was heavy.
That's not... I'm having a moment. Okay. Because they're trapped at this campsite, Aldari has this brilliant fucking idea to create... I don't even want to say it.
Say it.
It's just... so cringe, so fucking cringy. They're making
paragliders.
Okay, I exaggerate, but they're making gliders.
Yeah.
Gliders.
We can add that to like our crazy list of things that make an appearance in this book.
The amount of time they spend building these gliders, like keep in mind they're still being attacked by the Twisted at the dome of their campsite.
Oh, and but they're making like protective globe thing is like starting to fail. So that's like your urgency is that like they have a very limited amount of time to figure out how the fuck they're going to like get past all these zombies.
So I have to imagine that this was like a horde of Twisted and they're so greatly outnumbered that the only way they can escape is going over the fucking cliff.
Uh-oh.
However, I didn't need 2 pages of detail talking about how we're building the gliders.
That's
like this
true.
was a token toss to Aldari to be like, oh, you're the smart one, right? Tell us how to engineer a plane.
Yeah.
Well, I'm no engineer, but I'm the smart one, so let me tell you how to build this.
See, I didn't even think about that, but that's true because I feel like both of us are like reasonably smart and like, you know, a little bit well-traveled, like we've done a thing or two, but like I would not be able to like tell you even in the slightest how to put together a paraglider that could like actually work, especially to go off a cliff.
No. But I certainly wouldn't like take charge of that. Oh, you're going to use this to go over a cliff.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Put people's like lives in your hand.
I can barely do Jenga.
That's fair. But that like requires all kinds of like architectural knowledge and physics. You know, paragliders, that's easy. Right?
Sure, totally. Because 21-year-old Aldari knows all about that because she's been spending all her time writing economics papers.
Oh, I forgot she's so young. Oh, yeah. That is kind of weird.
Like, add that to the list of things that are just weird about her, like, as a character.
Because, like, in my head, I thought she was, like, 26. Like 25, 26. Because that's when you'd have your doctorate, right?
Well, yeah, if we're living in this universe where apparently there's a Dewey Decimal System and yet messenger pigeons, like, there you have, I'm sure they have higher level universities too.
That's fair.
Like in a formalized education
They actually
system.
care about their public school education system. We support teachers on this podcast.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Aldari. I don't even, I know you enjoyed this book, but I really hesitate to even call her a heroine.
She's a heroine though. She like at least like fights the bad guys sometimes.
I feel like Theli is more of a heroine than Aldari is.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like Aldari is just like sheltered maybe, but she like at least, you know, wants to help people around her, and like she heard about the Elf Kingdom and their, you know, tragic backstory curse thing they got going on, but like also she should probably care about her own people, but also
She's gonna save them with a magical bop
That's
it,
true.
okay?
But I mean, they're probably thankful. Like at least somebody's doing something with the bop it instead of the like however many centuries have gone by that nobody was able to like figure this out.
That's the other thing that I found like pretty unbelievable.
As I said that.
Is that, oh, you had to go, right? Like, okay, this elf kingdom that's been around for centuries, these people live forever, technically. They've been studying this magical invasion of zombies for as long as it's been going on, and not a single one of them could figure this little puzzle bop it thing out. They had to go to a human child, essentially.
Well, that is true because they're all like what 200-300 years minimum, probably, if not older.
Mm-hmm.
And like as we'll like get into too. Oh, actually, do you want to talk about the puzzle? Or did you skim past that part?
I might
Where
have
like all the
skipped
scientists,
well, is that
like
the whole...
they open up the books to try to find like what the combination sequence is to the puzzle door.
The door or the buffet?
The door.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. They haven't left the campsite yet, so I don't know. Where do you want to insert that?
I was just because like, so the part that felt weird to me is like as they're, you know, also building the paragliders or whatever to get out, it's because they found like a solution all of a sudden to the like magic door puzzle, which involves a bunch of like sliding block number things that you have to like put in the right order, and then like they pop out and then the door opens or something. And they've like tried all these different combinations, and like all of the archaeologists and like mathematic people and like botanists or something they have on the camp like haven't been able to figure it out. But then all of a sudden Aldari like sees the puzzle, and like they try out a bunch of different combinations and talk through things, but then she suggests that the like door combination solution is like based off of the, what is it, like the golden ratio. Yeah, and they have like a book, and they like measure distances between this like extinct. Oh my God, I had like an aneurysm. An extinct like tree that was in the local area, and it like its branches looked like the little like Bop It toy, and she's like, oh, it's like based on this, and then like if you measure these ratios. I kind of like skim past that part because I'm like, I don't know math that great, but sure, like I'll trust you on this one. But it was just one of those weird like, none of y'all thought of that. Like, why was she the, you know, kingpin of this solution just randomly all of a sudden?
This is her I'm special moment.
That's true.
Right? Every heroine has an I'm special moment.
But at least it was like I'm special in a like my brain way, and not because like all of a sudden you discovered you have magical powers, which isn't something like in your control. Like at least she like fostered her brain. You know what I mean?
That's a fair point.
Well, angry himbos.
Yeah.
I say that endearingly. I want that to be clear.
They're very endearing, despite the sassiness. That's fair. Okay, well, she solved the puzzle, yet they're still trapped at this campsite thing. They have to make it to the laboratory thing. So they twisted kind of break through, I think, the magical barrier finally. And everyone's like, oh shit, guess we're going to use these gliders whether they work or not. And Aldari and Theli end up sharing one, and Hawk is on another glider above them. So they make it across the canyon, except like Aldari and Theli's glider starts to crash, like kind of comes out of control.
I think their like weight is too much because it's like two people on a glider meant for like one person, and so they're like going too fast or something.
Wasn't there a moment when they were building the gliders that like they weren't going to make enough for everyone?
Yeah.
Like wasn't Theli not going to get one?
It was I think that's exactly what it was. And then Aldari's like, that's fucked up. Like, she's coming with me. We'll just like power through it and hopefully not die and, crash.
So I did appreciate
Mhm.
that part where she didn't abandon her friend and bodyguard, because I very well could have seen this going where Aldari's like, I'm gonna ride with you, Hawk.
I could have seen that too. That's a good point. Akko.
So yeah, but it doesn't happen. Like, they share the glider, Theli and Aldari, and except it starts to crash, and Hawk's above them. He's like, okay, just let go and roll with it.
That's what happens.
And so like they let go of their glider and they survive. Hawk lands. Oh no, this scene. Hawk lands his glider next to them where they've fallen. And Hawk scoops Aldari into his arms. They have this romantic moment. And she apparently just forgets about Theli. Like, they just had a serious accident, and Aldari is like starstruck because Hawk has swung in to like have a moment with her, like beaten and bruised after they've crashed their glider.
Like, maybe check on your friend, home dog.
Yeah, like for real. She doesn't, like, Theli isn't mentioned. It's just an entire paragraph about Aldari and Hawk having this.
Yeah, because she like twisted her ankle or something. Oh, yeah.
I'm all for romantic moments. Like, if you earn it, if it's appropriate, like this was
one
not
was
the
a little
time.
weird. But I feel like all of their romantic moments have been like a little bit weird. Like, because that first one on the pirate ship where she like kisses his neck, like that's pretty weird too.
Yeah, that one. I don't think there's been like there hasn't been a romantic moment between Hawk and Aldari that has given me like the warm fuzzies.
I agree with that.
That's what I want in a book.
I think so too. Because even there's one point where Aldari like goes to visit Hawk when he like wakes up and he's finally feeling better after being poisoned or whatever. And like he took like a pain like potion or something to make himself like start to get better. And so he's all like loopy. And they have like a little bit of like a moment in that, but even that didn't really give me like warm and fuzzies. It was just kind of like uncomfortable almost. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like weird consent questions going on right now, but that's fine. We'll just skip past that.
Everything, it always seems a little, it always seems like a little forced, and not forced in the sense the characters are forcing it on each other, but like the author is forcing it on the reader.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which again is weird because like Lindsay's other books, like it feels so natural. Like you're almost watching like a TV show and like the circumstances just bring them together to a point, and then they have like a little bit of something and then it moves on because it's like there's no time for that. But this felt like really forced, and it could just be like, again, like we talked about, I think in the last episode or maybe an earlier of this one, it's just like a pacing weirdness going from like a single standalone novel from like series. That's my guess.
I was going to suggest that maybe there's a ghostwriter involved, but that might be a whole
I don't think so. I think she has done books like what is that when you do two writers that like write together one book?
I don't know. Just a collaboration.
Oh, yeah, because I know she's done a couple of those, but I don't know that she's like big enough to have a ghostwriter. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, tangent. Haha.
Anyway,
I had to take the opportunity.
You're gonna try that now? Okay. Well, they finally get to the magical laboratory. And Aldari starts working on this puzzle thing, I'm kind of fuzzy on what exactly this puzzle is because they've broken into the laboratory, I think. Do you remember?
Because like all of the puzzles are a little bit confusing. So like the first main one, I imagined like a bunch of like rocks with like numbers on them, and you have to like shift them in the right order. And if you like take one out and put it in the wrong spot, like fire like comes out and tries to snap you or whatever verb you would use in that sentence.
So like half Indiana Jones, half Merlin Trials.
And then the next one is some variant of that too. And then there's like a slide puzzle I think involved somewhere around there too. But also like the Twisted are attacking, and like that's where all the mercenaries who took the other gliders. They're like trying to give them time to like break open the puzzles.
Yeah, I think it's just Aldari, Hawk, and Setvik and Theli who are like in the sorcerer's chamber trying to put all these things
but
together.
I think Setvik and Theli at one point, like, they're running low on people to like help keep the twisted out or whatever, and they're like, okay, like Aldari, like just keep it fucking together until you break through these. Like, we're gonna go break off, because it kind of gave me that vibe of like, you gotta hurry up in there, and like, you know, Aldari's like covered in sweat, like, oh, I can't do math that fast. Because I too cannot do math at all.
Yeah, that's. I mean, especially. No
fucking way.
No way.
I get that way when I have to like leave a tip at a restaurant, and I try to like add together the total and the tip. Like, I immediately break out in a cold sweat.
Oh,
you're looking at me so judgily. Oh my god.
Okay. Anyway, back to Aldari and Hawk and this puzzle.
The puzzle.
So the puzzle, it's one of many puzzles. So Aldari has this realization that she needs someone, quote, of the blood, preferably the prince, like the elven prince, to like finish this puzzle out. And poof, turns out, couldn't see this one coming at all. Hawk is a prince. I wonder if that explains the relationship with the queen and king and big brother who showed up to save them. Like,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So Hawk is the younger elvish prince. Aldari is the younger human princess. No parallels here at all.
Because it's also like weird, because in this scene, so they like finally broken into the like laboratory like main area, and there's like a sectioned off like final, you know, room that has this like big chair in it kind of thing, and like only a person with, you know, like royal blood can like sit in the chair and solve some problem that's going to happen, or, you know, the solution to get the twisted unzombified. It's not a word, but we're going to make it a word. But it's so like weirdly, like the dialogue in this part is like super choppy and like awko, because like there's like a force field or something that keeps him out of this room. And that's when Aldari's like, oh, I think it can only be like someone of like royal blood, like, but we need the prince to come here, but he can't get past all the twisted. And like, I just imagine like Hawk was like looking off like into the distance, and he's like, we don't need a prince, we have one. And then he like walks through, and Aldari's like, what are you talking about? Like, what is happening right now? That's how I imagine that scene to happen, because like all of the dialogue was like a little awko.
Oh my gosh. I can just picture Legolas right now, like wind blowing the golden locks back, and he's just looking like adoringly into the camera, like, it is my time to shine.
And Aldari is like all like covered in sweat and has like soot on her face, and she's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, where's this wind coming from? That's how I imagined.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at too on this one. Well, so Prince Hawk can help finish this puzzle and save the Twisted, or kill the Twisted. We think at this point, like, so there's some sort of like blood sacrifice thing, and he gets what I wrote here was magical grippy thing, like
accurate,
kind of taking over him. Yeah. And Aldari's like, oh no, he's dying. Like, my heart is broken, except he lives, unfortunately.
Damn.
And
Jordan's out here hoping for murder.
I'm not the biggest Hawk fan. I mean, I think I'd prefer Hawk over Aldari, but you know, that's not saying very much. The Twisted, so this puzzle like clicks into place, and the Twisted all kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
Like, they all die. The battle ceases, except there's a few more like recently converted Twisted, because they haven't been as cursed for so long, because in addition to being zombified, to quote Katie here, it also prolonged their life, naturally so. So the super old ones all died. The more recent ones kind of come out of this.
I kind of loved that part, because I haven't seen like a lot of zombie movies, but I feel like that's something that they kind of like skim across. Like, I like the idea that the curse can be undone and they like stop being zombies. But like, if you've been like a zombie for like a long ass time and like you've lived past what you'd naturally live, like I like the idea that they just kind of like crumble apart. Like, it was like a fun, like, oh, okay, like I like that. Interesting. Like, it was a reasonable answer.
There's a super adorable rom-commy
What?
zombie movie. Have you? Yeah, okay. So I don't remember the name of it. I think it came out in like the mid to late 2000s, maybe the 2010s. But it's like a Romeo and Juliet story between humans and
Yeah,
zombies.
isn't it like cold
And
blood or like warm blood?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about because
I thought that it was
keep going.
pleasantly surprisingly like cute. I
It's
enjoyed
called
it.
Warm Bodies. It has that
Warm
one guy
Bodies.
in it who's like in all those shows. I think he's in The Menu. What is his name?
Oh yeah,
Nicholas.
That's
Holt?
another great movie.
Nicholas Holt. Yeah, I saw commercials, but I never actually saw the movie.
You would love it if that's what you're looking for, like a good ending for the zombies. Like watch this movie.
It has an 81% on
It's
Rotten
super
Tomatoes.
cute.
Wow.
I'm telling you, like
maybe I'll watch that. I have my like afternoon plans for the day. Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe I'll watch it again too. It's been many, many years. So they save the day. The Twisted are like resolved, and then again, we saw this coming as a reader, but it was still very kind of forced, and which is because of the parallels between Hawk and Aldari, and Theli and Setvik. It is now time for Theli and Setvik, who've been nothing but antagonistic towards each other. There have been no warm, fuzzy moments between these two. Not a single one. It's always been super snarky, super sassy, nothing to balance it out. Well, they get this romantic moment. I think like Setvik's like, it's kissing time. Like, yeah, I'm going for it.
It was like a very weird.
It was weird. Yeah. And it felt kind of like forced. Like it like Setvik forcing it on Theli. Like, did you get that impression?
I did, because it kind of he gave the impression that he thought that like Theli was like easy, or like she was obligated to like, you know, kiss him or something. It was a little like weird, a little bit. Didn't love it.
Like, don't get me wrong. I wanted that to be like a romantic plot line in this book, and I wish it had been done better, because I thought those were two really good characters, and it just didn't turn out great.
I'm looking at your notes right now, and I love the fact that this line says Setback and Thea. Like, those are not people in this fucking book. I died.
Okay, well,
Setback and Thea.
Okay, so let me give you let me pull the curtain back on how I did the notes for this episode, which is I was reading on my Kindle, and every couple pages I stopped and I took a voice recording and I just narrated my notes a little bit.
Okay.
So well, I couldn't remember from page to page. Like, if I waited an entire chapter, I would have blocked out portions.
That's fair.
So the voice recordings helped me out a lot on this one. But yeah.
Setback
it
and
also
Thea.
resulted in names like Setback.
I love it. Oh my God. Setback.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, I'll get over that.
Anyway, if you couldn't sense, we are nearing the end of the book. We kind of get a fade to black scene a little bit here after the whole Twisted are saved and the puzzles are solved. And the next opening scene is Aldari and Theli have returned back to Aldari's kingdom. And the evil Taldar Empire is attacking. They're at the gates, essentially. And Aldar is like, well, I done fucked this up, but there's nothing we can do now.
Sorry, fam.
And there's no his Aldari's dad, the king, and her sister are there, and they don't seem very antagonistic at all towards Aldari, in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's fair. She was kidnapped, right? But you had the opportunity to go home.
Yeah. It was
And you
weird
didn't.
that they didn't even have any like underlying like annoyance with her. Like I think the sister made like some kind of like joke kind of jab at her about the whole thing, but other than that, like no one was like upset. And it could be that, you know, this is a couple like days or weeks after she came back and like they've already had that discussion. But I would assume that like if you're on the brink of being invaded and they're like right outside your castle and you're potentially going to be like put to death, I would be a little upset still.
Yeah, just a little. I do think it has been several weeks.
Oh, okay.
Since the whole sorcerer's puzzle thing. So it's been a decent amount of time since Eldari's returned home.
I think,
yeah, it's just not looking great.
I think
for
I would
them.
still be upset though.
Until
I would still be bitter.
yeah, I mean, like Eldari should be locked away, and like you should be like repenting your sins.
Maybe
here.
a little bit. Like you had this whole adventure voluntarily, and like, yeah. But okay, girl, she did what her heart told her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So invading army. Except out of fucking nowhere, there is another army like on the horizon galloping towards them, and I think there's some boats too, like ships.
There's like a whole fleet,
right?
of
Like so, there's
ships off in the distance.
Yeah, there's a fleet of ships. The cavalry, it comes galloping up on their reindeer. Can you guess who it is? And yep. It's Hawk with an elven army, not just his little moonsword company of mercenaries. He's got the entire elven kingdom army at his back. And he's like, okay, Taldar Empire, you want to take us on? Because we're here to protect the little humans.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah. This was cool. Like, this was a cute little, like, okay, another movie reference here. So I think it's the Two Towers, maybe, where Gandalf goes off to get to Rohan to like get the and they come over the hill. Like it's all of these it's cavalry, and they're like come at the orcs from behind, and like it's this brilliant lighting and music, and it's just they come over the hill and save the day. And like that was this
They
moment.
did that in Game of Thrones too, I think. Like one of the seasons.
Which
of the like OG
I don't remember.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, I think that's a scene because there's like one with Jon Snow, and it's like, oh shit, he's about to get murdered, and then like another army. And it's funny too that you said this, but I got warm and fuzzies in this scene. This was like like he came back and like is like fixing things, and especially when they have their like dialogue like immediately after, I was like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't quite warm and fuzzy for me, but it was a nice scene. So the Taldar Empire are like, well, fuck us then. We're gonna go away. We don't want to take on this elven army because again, elves haven't been seen in the human lands for centuries, and now the entire military is there to
the whole thing.
So the empire is repelled. They go away. And that opens up Captain / Prince Hawk to have this like one-on-one conversation with the king and, you know, Aldari's dad and Aldari and her sister. Except a little magic happens and then the entire like military and fleet disappear. And it turns out it was just this big illusion, like elvish magic to fake having a military. And like everyone's like, well, that could have gone really poorly.
That's the part I liked.
We're glad no one tested this theory of yours. But great illusion, bud. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for trying.
I love that part.
Yeah. And this is kind of, you know, the grand conclusion because Hawk's like, so I hear you got a young daughter who's available now because her betrothed is like a dick and he didn't come and help. But I came and help and I'm a prince. So can we, you know, like get married?
Yep. It was very sudden.
That's kind of how it went down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They went from like hugs, like weird kisses on the neck to let's get married.
Yep. And like no real discussions about any kind of, key like familial experiences and like family trauma and like do you want kids and like where do you want to live? Like none of those like key discussions that you should probably have before you get like married to someone. They're like, I know you kidnapped me, but it all turned out in the end, so we should get married.
So takeaway here is this was not an example of a healthy romantic relationship.
Yeah, maybe not. Though he did, I will say, there's a lot of times in books where the male love interest doesn't give the female protagonist like the space to like do things or be the hero. And I will say that I think Captain Hawk always like gave Aldari space, like he trusted her, you know what I mean? Like trusted in her abilities to do things. Because that definitely, there's a ton of books about that where it's always like this protective, like, I'm going to save the day. I'm going to rescue everything. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, I got it handled. But it's nice because he's like, no, I need your help. Like, I'm just a himbo.
Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. It kind of reminds me of the scene in ACOTAR. Well, it's not a scene. It's like a prolonged section of the book where, is her name Fair?
I guess it's Fairy, but I say Feyre. Yeah,
What?
no, I shit you not. Yeah.
Feyre.
I think it's Fairy is like how it's pronounced.
No, her name is
yeah,
Fairy?
I'm like 90% positive, but I always said it was like Feyre or something. Now, let me Google it.
I only know the name because it's come up on like so many reels lately. Like there's been a resurgence of like ACOTAR fangirling. Or maybe it just never stopped. I don't know. Anyway, so the scene in ACOTAR where Fair is doing the test, like the maze trial thing for the Fairy Queen.
It is pronounced.
And she's doing it all on
Feyre.
Okay. Feyre. Okay. Thank God, because that would have been...
I thought it was Fairy, but maybe not. Okay. Anyway, sorry. She's in the maze.
Okay. So anyway, Feyre's like in this like evil maze with the monsters and everything, and she has to completely do it on her own. And what's his face? I don't know his name. He's the male lead in book 2.
Oh, Rhysand.
He's like there, but he can only help guide her a little bit. He has to like let her fight on her own. I thought that was a much like better example of a heroine like having to fight the battle on her own with like no help from the hero.
So this might be controversial, but like, so I feel like in some of those scenes, he was like sufficiently like not supportive of her and kind of like gave her space to do things. But I also feel like there was a little bit of like a condescending undertone to it. Like he kind of like because he cheated to help her win. And like I know that she like probably like the odds were stacked against her, and so like she also needed to cheat because the other lady like Amarantha or something was cheating too, and like the odds were stacked against her. But I feel like it was a little bit condescending almost. Like he assumed that she wouldn't have been able to do it on her own, so he had to help her. And like I know that's true to a degree, but I feel like he didn't necessarily like give her space to do it on her own and have the trust that like if anyone could do it, it could be her. You know what I mean?
I see where you're going with that. And I could see that totally. Readers, if you didn't know, we are planning to review ACOTAR in the near future.
We're gonna have all kinds of controversial opinions.
We so much to talk about with those books. But this was I only read the book once, and that was a couple years ago at this point. But that scene definitely stuck with me. But I like your take on it because I hadn't given it that perspective yet. And well, maybe Hawk's better than Rhysand.
Whoa, those are like fighting words. And I love.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have some like I was gonna say I'm gonna have some Sarah J. Maas groupies like.
I think we both are, but like I've read the book a bunch of times. Like I love it. Like it's a good, but I also don't think that necessarily like any intense scrutiny has like, been applied to the book. And, like people just always are just like, oh my God, I love it. And like, it's such a healthy relationship. And like, the characters are amazing and the story's amazing. And it's like, I don't know that anyone's really taken like a close like magnifying glass to it and looked at some of the like more odd things about it or like questionable,
I can't
I'm
wait.
excited.
I can't wait for us to like
Even just like this little
dive into that
tidbit is
one.
like a teaser, like, ooh, that's going to be some good fucking episodes.
There is so like those books are so hefty. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
That might be like Crown Duel level like length.
I could
for
see
us
that. Yeah.
reviewing those
But I
books.
do want to caveat it's not our next book, but it is upcoming.
Yeah, we'll save our next book for announcing it next episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to read the next book with us, you have one more episode to get through.
Yeah, that's it. Just one more. That's all we ask of you. But that closes. Words are hard for me right now after that summary.
Yeah.
So that closes us out for the Elf Tangent, except for our Q&A episode.
Yeah.
If you have questions about this book or about anything really, like hit us up. We want to talk about it for our next episode.
Yeah.
So,
send us a message on
I think that's about it.
Instagram if you have any questions that you want us to talk about or like opinions you want to tell us about. Totally interested in hearing.
Like, do you agree that Hawk is a himbo? Like, if you don't, we want to know.
Hawk the himbo. Yes.
Well, thank you for listening so far. And from our shelf to yours,
we'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Music. Thanks for listening.